Okay, before we start this video, what is an NHL GOAT? Well, to sum it up simply, it's the team's best player from franchise history or greatest of all time. They could still be playing today, they could have played 50 years ago. GOATs exist in every NHL franchise. Now, some teams have definitely been far more blessed than others, so that's why I thought it would be interesting to only talk about the GOATs, but rank them on a tier list. And also, I'm definitely gonna offend a lot of people, so press that like button so I don't get destroyed by the algorithm. Please and thank you. And if you disagree with my rankings or just who I choose as GOATs from every franchise, comment down below. I'm ready for the roast, I think. And I'm also sure some of my old school viewers will have some great opinions on some of the older players in this video, so I'd love to hear your feedback. And as for the rating scale, we got the traditional S through D. But you might be thinking, who's that little guy up there? What is he doing? Well, that's the Danny Heatley GOAT of all GOATs tier. So if you're in that tier, you are considered hockey royalty, you know, the best of the best. Also guys, it was my birthday this past Friday and we just so happened to hit 60K, so a nice little birthday present. I really appreciate the support guys, it has truly been life-changing. Alright, so we're gonna go in alphabetical order here and start with my choice from the Anaheim Ducks, which is Paul Kariya. Now, a pioneer for the smaller framed players in the NHL. The dude was nasty, and if he played in today's game, I think he'd be unstoppable, because if it wasn't for Kariya sustaining numerous concussions, most notably the Scott Stevens blindside hit, Kariya would have had a much longer and legendary career. But that being said, A tier. Arizona Coyotes. Shane Doan, a gritty hard-nosed winger who played in Arizona from the time he was 18 until he was 40, which is pretty crazy to think about. A legend in the Coyotes franchise for sure, but compared with other GOATs on this list, I'm gonna go D tier. Now, keep in mind, this is a GOAT tier list, so even though D seems pretty harsh, if you're still on this list, you were a great player. Doesn't mean you're a bad player by any means, but just in contrast or just in the context of the other names we have on this list. Bobby Orr. Now I can say this with confidence, he's the greatest defenseman the game has ever seen. He's a pioneer of his position. He helped revolutionize the game of hockey. The man is an icon, and he easily deserves to go. And congratulations, you're the first one to go in the Danny Heatley GOAT of all GOATs tier list. Dominic Hasek, one of the best to ever do it. 6 Vezina trophies, 2 Hart trophies, and 2 Ted Lindsay trophies. The man had fiery passion and could elevate any team into a contender, which is also why he got so much hardware, which was not common, and it's still not that common for a goalie. S tier. Calgary Flames. Iginla. Drafted by Dallas and traded away in what is perhaps one of the worst trade outcomes ever. Iginla was a special player, in that he could do anything. He had grit, he would drop the gloves, he took home 2 Maurice Richard trophies, and he was a phenomenal leader, and he even won gold in every single international tournament he ever played in. Pretty impressive. I'm gonna go in A tier. Carolina Hurricanes. Now, a couple names could have gone for the Canes, but I feel like Eric Staal is probably the most appropriate one. So, coming out the gates hot, Staal would have a 100-point and a Stanley Cup winning season in his second year. However, his game would slowly fade over the next 10 years. He was still a great player, but compared to some of these other track records, C tier. Might be a little bit controversial, but I guess we'll see. Also, I'm multitasking like a bunch of different screens, so if I'm looking all over, that's why. Patty Kane. So, in my opinion, Kane has edged out Modano for the best American forward in history. 3 cups, too many highlight reel goals to count, arguably the best hands in NHL history. And today, Kane's offense has even been surging back. And with some aggressive offseason moves by the Hawks, I would not be surprised if Kane could help carry Chicago back to being that contending team. But I'm gonna go A tier. From the Colorado Avalanche, we got Joe Sakic. So, the best wrister in NHL history, many dominant seasons, 2 Stanley Cups with the Avs, awards, triple gold club, longevity and consistency. I mean, even at 37, Joe Sakic would bounce back with a 100-point season. Excuse me, but Sakic is S tier easily. Not to mention he's still leading the Avs today as one of the best GMs in the game. For the Blue Jackets, we have Sergei Bobrovsky. Now, some may forget because he's been playing like a shell of his former self in Florida, and just so happens to be making $10 million per year. Are you kidding me? But make no mistake, Bob was a force in Columbus, and there's a reason why he took home 2 Vezina trophies carrying a losing team. And of course, you could make an argument for Rick Nash, but he won 2 Vezinas on a losing team on top of several great seasons. With that being said though, C tier. From the Dallas Stars, we got Mike Modano, arguably the greatest American player the game has ever seen. He led Dallas in games played, goals, assists, and of course points. A phenomenal skater who had a good defensive game and longevity, and he probably would be placed higher, but Modano, interestingly enough, never won a single piece of individual hardware. But Modano was super influential to the development of American hockey programs and easily deserves A tier. From Detroit, we of course got Nick Lidstrom. The man was the definition of smooth and steady. 7, count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Norris trophies, and a little fun fact, all of which were earned after the age of 30, so he aged like fine wine. And what's wild is the fact that Lidstrom nearly won 10 Norrises in his career, because before he won his first trophy, he placed second 3 years in a row. In my opinion, he's in the top 3 greatest defensemen of all time, and he will go S tier. The GOAT himself. Not only the most dominant NHL player in history by a mile, I mean, to put it simply, I like to reference this graph. Here's the best players we've ever seen in the game, and here's Wayno. Several 200 plus point seasons, which doesn't even seem fathomable. And Wayne isn't even just the best player in NHL history. There's a strong argument that he's the most dominant professional athlete in the history of sports. He's the GOAT of all GOATs. In fact, I'm gonna make him a little bit bigger just to distinguish that he's in the Danny Heatley GOAT of all GOAT tier. There we go. From the Panthers, we have Roberto Luongo. Okay, and I know this is gonna make me look like a homer because Canucks, but man, did Luongo get so much unnecessary hate in his career. The guy was statistically one of the greatest goalies the game has ever seen. In my opinion, he even wrongfully lost several Vezinas. Okay, let's look at the stats here. He was a top 10 Vezina candidate 9 times, top 3 times. He carried Vancouver and Florida so hard, it's not even funny, and I'm gonna go B tier. From the Kings, we got Marcel Dion, a scrappy 5'8" center who played a lot bigger than his size. And to sum up Dion, it's been quoted that defensemen would have to slash him so hard to stop him that they would break their sticks across his legs, and he would still go through them and score. 5th all-time in goals, and arguably one of the greatest players to never win a cup. And I'm gonna go S tier. Alright, from the Minnesota Wild, we got Gaborik, the first player drafted in Wild history, as Gaborik would single-handedly put the Wild on the map. He was a star, however, he wasn't really able to accomplish much in mini. He had his best season with the Rangers. And I'm feeling in between B and C on this one. I feel like I'm gonna leave him there. He's going C+. And if the Wild are able to lock down Kaprizov, they got a potential new GOAT in the making. Jean Beliveau, one of the most competitive and greatest leaders the game has ever seen, which is why he has 10 Stanley Cups. I repeat, 10 Stanley Cups. As Beliveau is a pioneer of our game and easily deserves S tier. From the Predators, we got Pekka Rinne, originally an 8th round pick, which is crazy. A Vezina trophy, and Pekka would single-handedly carry the Preds to the Cup Finals in 2017. In fact, Pekka was a phenomenal playoff performer, and if the Preds had just a bit more juice in the roster, Pekka had that ability and upside to win multiple cups. Sadly, he didn't, but the 8th round pick was a brick wall his entire career, and I'm gonna go B tier. The New Jersey Devils, Martin Brodeur, arguably the greatest goalie in NHL history, and talk about clutch, 3 Stanley Cups, 5 William N. Jennings Awards, 4 Vezinas, a pioneer in the development of goalie puck handling, S tier. And you know what? I'm going to put Gaborik in B tier. Seems fitting. From the Islanders, look at that hair. We got Mike Bossy, one of the best goal scorers the game has ever seen. And what is perhaps the most impressive thing about Bossy in his time with the Islanders is the fact that they were one of the only teams who could shut down Wayne Gretzky and the Oilers. Because with Bossy leading the charge, they would win 4 Stanley Cups in a row, which is really crazy and one of the most impressive stat lines ever. S tier. From the Rangers, we got Brian Leetch. In his 20s, Leetch was one of the most dominant defensemen in the league, a 102-point season, goddamn, 2 Norrises, a Conn Smythe, which ended a 54-year drought for the Rangers, in which Leetch had 34 points in 23 games as a defenseman. crazy, and I'm gonna go S tier. From the Senators, we got Erik Karlsson, and again, recency bias may sway Karlsson's perception, but don't you get it twisted. Karlsson is one of the greatest puck-moving defensemen the game has ever seen. 2 Norris trophies, he single-handedly carried the Senators to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2017. Not to mention, he also had a broken foot. A tier. From the Flyers, we got Bobby Clarke, and Bobby Clarke is one of those players who transcended hockey in a different way, being a pioneer for the chippy physical side of the game to win games, which led to some of the most entertaining games ever. A tier. Mario Lemieux. Okay, I'm just gonna put him there. We all know it. Super Mario is hands down one of the greatest players to ever grace the game of hockey. I mean, there even is some arguments that he is the best. A 199 point season. Are you kidding me? And to sum up how dominant Lemieux was, in 1993, Mario missed 24 games, which is a significant part of any player's season, which would also surely lose him any chance of a major piece of hardware. But no, not only did Mario put up 160 points in 60 games, which is just a mind-blowing stat, he would still manage to win the Hart, Art Ross, and Ted Lindsay, and was over a goal per game with 69 goals in 60 games. One of the hockey goats, for sure. From the Sharks, we got Joe Thornton. After being involved in one of the worst trades in NHL history, Jumbo would take home the Art Ross and Hart Trophy in that same season. And with the fact that he will be top 5 in games played after this season, and he's 14th all-time in NHL scoring, I will go A tier. From the St. Louis Blues, we got Brett Hall. Again, involved in one of the worst trades in NHL history, as the Calgary Flames in this time period loved trading away hopeful young prospects for nothing in return. Brett Hall would soon erupt with the 86 goal season and is one of the purest goal scorers in NHL history. With that being said, I'll go A tier. Now, I know what you might be thinking, why A tier if he's one of the greatest goal scorers? Well, his longevity wasn't quite there, his consistency wasn't quite there. There was that stretch where he would have been surely in the S tier with his goal scoring ability, but again, the consistency wasn't there as he started to fade over the duration of his career. Also, I'm running out of space, so I'm just going to extend this into the black zone. Is that okay? The Tampa Bay Lightning, we got Martin St. Louis. One of the more fun names to say, Martin St. Louis. Now, I went back and forth on this one quite a bit, but before they had, a super team, before they were $18 million over the cap, they had Martin St. Louis. He won the Cup in 04, super skilled, a pioneer for the smaller player, and that's an easy A tier for me. Toronto Maple Leafs, Matt Sundin. Now, when you compare Sundin's actual point totals with others on this list, let's be honest, it's not quite as impressive. However, what is extremely impressive about Sundin was his consistency. Because from day one until his last game in Toronto, Sundin had one of the most consistent careers I've ever seen. I mean, at the age of 36, he was putting up the same offense that he was putting up in his mid-20s. And standing in at 6'5", he was just an absolute force, and I will go A tier, easy. From the Canucks, we got Henrik Sedin. Now, for some reason, there's a narrative that Daniel was the better player, and I'm guessing people just saw how Daniel scored more goals, but it was hands down Henrik. What made Hank so special was just his ability to elevate everyone around him. You could stick me on his line, and I'd probably put up 30 goals. He had a 112-point season during a time where scoring was low. He was a pioneer in the way we see power plays today. Sadly, no cup. I don't want to talk about it. He had 2 Clancy Awards, an Art Ross, a Hart Trophy, and probably should have had the Ted Lindsay in that 112-point campaign, which, keep in mind, Daniel Sedin had a long-term injury that season. I'm going to go A tier. From the Vegas Golden Knights, Marc-Andre Fleury. The disrespect. The first player on Vegas, a player that carried them during the first season to the Cup Finals, and was the backbone to all of Vegas' success. In fact, Fleury would even take home the Vezina last season, yet he would go from kickstarting the Knights' entire franchise and success to being traded for literally nothing. But we'll go B tier. Alexander Ovechkin. And people tend to disagree with me for some reason, but here's what I'll say. Alex Ovechkin, in my opinion, is the purest goal scorer in NHL history, without a doubt. And this is my argument. Just hold up, listen. It's really hard to compare generations. It's really hard to compare the 80s to now the 2010s, 2020s. You can't do it. But what is one constant? Well, awards. And Ovechkin has 9 Maurice Richard trophies, more than anybody in NHL history. For that reason alone, I think he's the greatest, but tell me why I'm wrong. S tier, easy. Lastly, we got Dale Hawerchuk, rest in peace. As Dale would have 6 100-point seasons in his first 7 years, and was sadly overshadowed by players like Gretzky and Lemieux, but he was an Iron Man and an all-time great. S tier. Alright, my camera's about to die. Here it is. Comment down below why you think I'm wrong. And again, thank you guys so much for 60K. My camera's about to die. And as always, thanks for watching.